It was the spring of 1958 in glamorous Hollywood, a city of dazzling lights, movie stars, and dark secrets. At the center of one of the most shocking scandals of the decade stood Lana Turner, one of Hollywood's brightest leading ladies. Known for her beauty, elegance, and a career that had already made her a household name, Turner's life off-screen was anything but peaceful. Her relationship with gangster Johnny Stompanato would soon bring her name into headlines across America. Not for another hit movie, but for a shocking tragedy that unfolded inside her Beverly Hills home. Johnny Stompanato was no ordinary boyfriend. He was a notorious figure with deep ties to organized crime, a man feared as much as he was admired. His involvement in the Los Angeles underworld was well known, and yet his charm and bold presence drew Lana Turner into a whirlwind romance. At first, the gossip columns described them as a glamorous couple, the Hollywood starlet and the dangerous mobster. But behind the scenes, their relationship was filled with turbulence, arguments, jealousy, and violence. Hollywood in the 1950s was a tightly controlled machine. Studios worked hard to protect their stars' reputations, and scandals were carefully hidden from the public eye. But when it came to Turner and Stompanato, there was no way to conceal what was happening. Friends and close associates began to notice bruises on Lana. Whispers of Stompanato's possessiveness circulated, and his reputation as a controlling and abusive partner started leaking into the press. By early 1958, tensions between the two had reached dangerous levels. Turner's 14-year-old daughter, Cheryl Crane, often witnessed the fights firsthand. Cheryl was protective of her mother, and she resented Johnny's presence in their lives. The atmosphere inside their Beverly Hills mansion was one of constant unease. Those close to the family feared that sooner or later something terrible was bound to happen. On the night of April 4, 1958, the situation reached its breaking point. Lana Turner had just returned home after a day that was already emotionally draining. Reports suggest that Johnny arrived at the house angry, accusing Lana of wanting to end their relationship. Witnesses later testified that the argument escalated quickly. Raised voices echoed through the mansion, and the fight turned violent. According to police reports and later testimony, Johnny became threatening, his anger spiraling out of control. Cheryl Crane, who had been upstairs, heard the heated exchange. Fearful for her mother's safety, the young girl rushed into the room. What happened next would shock not only Hollywood but the entire nation. Cheryl, just 14 years old, grabbed a kitchen knife and confronted Stompanato. In the chaos, the knife struck Johnny. Within moments, the infamous gangster lay dying on the floor of Lana Turner's luxurious home. News of the incident spread like wildfire. Within hours, reporters crowded outside the mansion. The glamorous facade of Hollywood had been shattered by the image of a dead mobster lying in the home of one of America's most beloved actresses. Was it self-defense? Was it an accident? Or was there something even darker hidden beneath the surface? The police investigation quickly revealed the shocking truth. Cheryl Crane, a teenager, had delivered the fatal blow. The story dominated front pages nationwide. A star actress, her gangster lover, and her teenage daughter, caught in a tragedy that seemed straight out of a Hollywood film noir. The press had found the scandal of the decade, and they pursued it relentlessly. For Lana Turner, it was a nightmare beyond imagination. She faced not only the loss of a man she had once cared for, but also the terrifying reality that her young daughter was now at the center of a homicide case. For Cheryl, it was a desperate act of protection, one that would be scrutinized by courts, police, and millions of curious onlookers across America. The stage was set for one of Hollywood's most infamous courtroom dramas. The question remained, would the public see Cheryl as a child acting to save her mother, or as a girl who had committed an unthinkable crime? And what would happen to Lana Turner's glittering career in the aftermath of such a scandal? As the case moved toward trial, Hollywood braced for impact. Behind the glamorous posters and movie premieres, the dark side of stardom was on full display. And at the center of it all stood Lana Turner, her every move, every tear, every word watched by a press corps hungry for drama. The Hollywood dream had collided with a gangster's reality, and the fallout would be remembered for decades. After that fateful night in April 1958, the lives of Lana Turner and her daughter Cheryl Crane changed forever. The scandal surrounding the death of Johnny Stompanato was unlike anything Hollywood had ever seen. Outside their Beverly Hills home, crowds of reporters, photographers, and police officers gathered, waiting for every new detail. Everyone wanted to know what really happened inside that house. The police quickly took Cheryl into custody, but the case was delicate. She was only 14 years old. The challenge before the courts was to decide whether her actions were a crime or an act of self-defense in order to protect her mother. Almost overnight, newspapers across America declared it Hollywood's biggest scandal. When the trial began, it didn't look like a courtroom. It looked like a movie set. The judge, lawyers, jury, and the army of reporters all seemed to be focused on one thing: Lana Turner. The glamorous star who had once ruled the silver screen was now standing in court, not as an actress but as a witness to a deadly tragedy. When Lana took the witness stand, the entire room fell silent. Her voice shook, her eyes welled with tears. She told the jury about Johnny's violent temper, about the abuse she had endured, and about the control he tried to exert over every part of her life. Recalling that terrible night, she said, "He was furious, he threatened me. Cheryl only wanted to protect me." The press seized on every word. Headlines across the nation carried photographs of Lana weeping in court. The public didn't just see a Hollywood star anymore. They saw a mother and daughter caught in a desperate fight for survival. For many, Cheryl's act was not murder, but a heartbreaking attempt to save her mother's life. Witnesses and doctors also testified about Johnny Stompanato's violent nature and his notorious ties to the mob. Slowly, the courtroom atmosphere shifted. It became clearer and clearer that Cheryl's action was not premeditated murder, but an act of fear, desperation, and protection. After weeks of testimony, the verdict was finally delivered. Cheryl Crane was not convicted of murder. The stabbing was ruled a justifiable homicide. In legal terms, it meant she had acted in defense of her mother's life. The decision was a huge relief for both Lana and Cheryl, but the scars of the ordeal could never fully heal. As Lana and Cheryl left the courthouse, they were met once again by the blinding flash of cameras. Lana had succeeded in saving her daughter from prison, but in the eyes of the public, her image was forever changed. She was no longer just the beautiful movie star. She was the actress whose gangster lover had been killed in her home, and whose teenage daughter had been at the center of it all. Hollywood itself watched closely. Studio executives feared that this scandal would destroy Lana's career, but the opposite happened. Public sympathy for her testimony and her heartbreaking image in court gave her a second chance. She went on to act in more films, and audiences embraced her again. This time not only as a glamorous star, but also as a woman who had survived a devastating personal tragedy. For Cheryl, however, life would never be the same. Thrust into the spotlight at just 14 years old, she faced years of personal struggles and media attention. No matter what path she chose, she would always be remembered as the girl at the center of one of Hollywood's darkest scandals. The Stompanato case left Hollywood shaken. It served as a reminder that behind the glitz of red carpets and movie premieres, there were darker stories of violence, abuse, and desperation. This was not a carefully written movie script, it was real life. And reality, as this case proved, can be more shocking than fiction. Even decades later, when people speak of old Hollywood scandals, the name Lana Turner is almost always mentioned. The tragic tale of a glamorous actress, her gangster lover, and her daughter's desperate act of protection remains one of the most infamous stories in Hollywood history. It wasn't just a scandal, it was a mirror reflecting the dangerous undercurrents beneath Hollywood's golden age.